My story goes that I haven't been under the Lithuanian flag for the last 10 years. And this is the first year that I am back in Lithuania after 10 years. And I can work under the Lithuanian flag, and it's a big thing. So I'm going to talk about the politics of space and why it is so important that citizens are engaged and are actually the ones that make the government of this space. So my story goes that I grew up in this place that probably it's familiar with you because I've seen something similar in Kiev. I've been here and I spent the time and played in the playgrounds that were done from the metal pieces and was dangerous to play. And I've seen this environment for 18 years of my life. This is me when I was 7 and confirmation. This is the kiosks where I would buy my chewing gum and the soda. This is the school I went to. And this is my first engagement to understand that actually the places are made from people. Because otherwise it's just a space without any meaning and any belonging. So when I was a student of the second year of architecture studies, in front of the building of architecture faculty, 2 artists, Nomeda and Gediminas Urbonai, they started the protest lab. This is the building and the space in front of the building that holds incredible meaning for people in Lithuania because the building carries the name Lithuania in Lithuanian language. And it was never removed as a name during the Soviet times. It was there. And we all would go there because the cinema was there. The festival, the spring festival was taking place there. We would meet our first date in front of this building because that space in front was so important because this is in the middle of a center. This is the way it looks today. There is a story behind. 10 years, this place was not taken by anyone. The protest lab that Gediminas and Nomeda Urbonai organized, it was the occupation of the building because the new developer had a great idea. I will show the great idea is this. They had a great idea that this building needs to be removed. The program of the building needs to be removed because it's a perfect place to build a new infrastructure that is housing for the people that can afford it. As you see, there is no any more space in front of the building. So all the activities that was taking place in the occupation time that was going on for 1 year actually was not about the building and architecture of the building. But it was actually inviting people to discuss what is going on in the city, why the developers like a new Benetton can come in and occupy one of the cinemas that was so crucial and important for our culture to have. Why we need way more shopping malls in the city center and less cultural centers. It was actually the place where people will discuss, they will connect to each other, they will make community gatherings, and different ideas were actually born here. So what's happened, of course, that the developer didn't know what to do because a lot of hundreds of people would come here every evening to pass by, to discuss things. And what happened that, of course, we entered also to the court because it was getting wild. For example, one thing that every morning at 5 o'clock, 10 activists would go on the bridges in Vilnius and put the signs that we sold it out. So every morning at 8 o'clock, you will see the signs that all the bridges in Vilnius are sold out. It was powerful. It was just the art. But the developers didn't know what to do. The municipality was also lost. So the tension between politics and public space planning are being exceeded by the self-organizations of citizens, social interactions, and new ways of production. So I see also the CANactions as a new production of activities, new production of looking to the city, new ways of developing how we could see the city in the future. So another activity that involved a lot of people on the streets, we made a Monopoly game that you probably all know. The objects were all the important buildings in Lithuania, and we will sell them for really cheap. And we would ask people later on, how do you feel it? How do you feel that you sell the castle, for example, and you own it, and you can do whatever you want? So the idea was to invite as many as possible to discuss, are we part of the city? Are we the ones that needs to actually take responsibility of what is going on, and how we can do it? But I am talking here about 2005. In 2005 was a bit too early to discuss some things. Some of us had really troubles. Oh, it's not good for video. Okay. I'm sorry, I like to stand next to people and don't like a stage. Okay? Let's try to look nice for video. Yeah. So, how the story ends. Because the developer got tired of these crazy activists with all these crazy ideas, the municipality could really not fight because they didn't know what to do. Most of the times we will get the police coming up and asking what you're doing here, but the policemen at that time also didn't know what to do. Like, there's 500 people gathering. You know, what kind of discussion you can have, and there's not really order to remove them, but we occupied illegally. So what happens after 10 years? This building is forgotten. It looks really bad. But after 10 years, one of the rich men that has good ideas, he was looking for the place for the contemporary art center to be built in Vilnius and to give it as a present to the city. What happens that this space actually waited for him to come. And this one is coming up. So he bought the land. He's going to remove the building because it's not about the building. But what is about that the new building needs also to be for people. And people, it's not the particular kind of, but it's for everyone. So sometimes stopping the processes and not knowing what to do with it helps out for the future generations to get something good enough. So that was my first learnings in 2005, that something that I was taught in architecture school and in primary school, and what I've seen in the world, is a bit more upside down than I thought. And this is what I always try to tell to my students. You have to be able to question everything what is told you for granted. It's not for granted. The global south and global north is somewhere in between us. It's not what someone told and wrote in the documents. The world on the left is Lithuania. The world on the right is in Uganda. Why I do compare? This is the two places I worked in my life most. They are different, but they're only different by their context, history, and scale. But the urban politics are the same. They have exactly the same patterns. So the design can be explained by the following example by Alejandro Aravena. We see the chair, we design the chair, and we think that everyone, as you are now sitting on the chair, will be understood for everyone else in anywhere else. But this is also a chair for him. And for him, it's way more comfortable to sit like that, with that string. The challenge of today, for all of us, is actually the piece of cloth is to the chair as X, is to architecture. And we need to find out what is that X. We need to turn the world upside down and to figure out what new we can bring. So we have to look for the most relevant, precise, and irretrievable value for X. So to know how to design under the scarcity of means is relevant. The design is a resource first, and this is our professional responsibility to make it a resourceful. So we have to be careful. This is the guy I met in Uganda on the street, and he has a t-shirt that probably was given by one of the NGOs. We urban planners create an utopia for people to live. And are we really these bad guys with our plans in the closed rooms, making the utopia for others to live in? We have to be careful not to become the bad guys. So I see what I see, but what I'm looking at. And this is the challenge of today. We're so fast in judging the first thing we see. We're so fast to presuming that what we see is real. We're so fast of not spending time of talking to people, smelling the environment, touching it, listening, and then deciding what to do next. This is not a Photoshop. There is a corner in the between. And these guys are in the rainy season in Uganda. And they have to be curious enough to see each other. And this is what is so important, that we are curious enough to be able to understand. There are 3 underlying orders in any urban structure we have to be aware of. The physical form, the territorial control, that is the power structures we need to understand, and cultural understanding that is so important for every context we work in. This is the story from Uganda. From 2009, I worked in Uganda and I lived in Uganda. I am involved, or been involved for the last 4 years in teaching in upper north in Trondheim, Norwegian University of Science and Technology. We would run the master program that is so similar with all the approach and intentions of the CANactions school. It's a program that is run for 19 years. It's a program where everyone can apply. It's a program where you go as a student, you are a young professional and a colleague of ours. We're not teachers, we're mentors. And you have to have 5 and more years of experience to become one. So we got a project to work on for several years now. It's a housing project. And then you have architects in your team, or planners. We all think we know it's a housing task, let's do it. Let's just design it. The challenge is that the house needs to become home. And what is home? That's something that holds a meaning. That's something where you can stay with your family. That's something where you can get income. That's something where you can connect to the city. That's something where you can walk for the services. So this lady is actually doing the charcoal balls called. They use it for making food because there's no gas, or gas is too expensive to buy, and there's no electricity access. This is in the middle of 3 million city. She needs a space to dry these balls because they are made from charcoal, leftovers, banana peels, and potato peels that are grinded together. To make one meal, you need 3 balls. So she is making her all living, and she has 4 kids. So she needs to earn the money first. So she don't really think of big house or small house. She thinks where she can sell this, where she can dry this, and how her kids can go to school. So this is just a sketch that we developed together with the ministry, together with the local university, together with the community. And this sketch, you would not believe, it took us 2 years to make. This sketch has a story behind, because the most important thing was that everyone is included, that it's affordable, that is in the place where we can get the land and agree with the government to provide that land, So the idea is that in the first floor, you have to rent out these places so that community can get the money, get the income to sustain the rest of the building. So that management of the building is important. That architects were a bit worried that they're not aware of that fact. They thought that they will just design it. But then we have it in the team, the economist. He will tell you, well, this is not affordable, out. Proposal bad. So what is all about that basically it says 20 square meters that you have a possibility of extension. Then you get more income. So it's an incremental way of doing it. And it's also why it takes so long, because it's also the law in Uganda that this house cannot be, you cannot register yourself in this kind of house because it's too small. So actually what we're lobbying now, and this is 7 years already, and it will probably take more to change the policy, that 35 square meters will be also called a house and a home for these people to stay. What you see in the last line is actually, because we designed it with the people, it was really hard to communicate through the drawings. So what we did, we built it one scale for everyone to feel the space. And the Minister of Housing and Development, he was also there to cut the ribbon. And he was there not getting a stage as he asked. That's why I don't like these stages. He asked for the stage because he said, I'm coming for 5 minutes to open up the building, or the one-to-one scale building. And I said, and he asked for the security because he wanted to feel safe. And I said, well, you're coming to your own people, so you're safe. And he asked for the stage. And I said, I'm sorry, we're going to work in the settlement where people live, so there's no stages. So the politics around it is always there, because the space and planning itself is all about the politics. So there is one more story from my own life experience in Rio de Janeiro, in favela, that is Informal Settlement. I did the research there about the publicness of the space. So basically, who owns the space in the settlement where resource of the space is actually equal to huge amounts of money, where you actually want to first to build your shack to live in. So who in these kind of places, in the informal setup, decides how much space we leave for us to share, and who will share, and who decides what we share? Then there is no government to decide. So it's actually a story in how in 15 steps we need to turn light in the tunnel and in action. Rio de Janeiro, you probably know, this is the favela Santa Marta. In order to carry out the research and to understand how the public space works in 24 hours, round the clock, I had to move in. I moved in and I rented out the shack. If you ask if it was an experience that I will repeat, probably not. But the information I gathered is so important and unique that I recommend everyone to do it. The public space that I said, it has a different meaning and it has a different, the way it looks. So for some people, actually, what they call public space is a roof, because there's no space. For most people, the public space is between the buildings, because this is only one space together. On the top right, it's actually the space that one of the boys related to, because basically he said, well, the public space is where I used to live. And I couldn't understand. He said, I used to live. What do you mean that? He said, can we walk there? And we walked there, and it's actually the house that they demolished in order to make the escalator. So the boy relates to that space. As he is only one public space, he goes to play. So as being a planner and an architect, what do you do with that information? This is how it looks at night. That's why I had to move there for 24 hours to see that the space have a completely different meaning, activities, and action after 10 o'clock in the evening. So as a researcher, if I would come only at 8 o'clock in the morning and leave there at 4, I would never experience that. I would never know about it. Could anyone guess what's wrong with that picture? there is a big, big message for us, for all of us in practice. You know, yes. Yes, correct. So, municipality decides that we need to spend some money there because it's informal settlement and we need to build some playgrounds because it's a normal thing to spend money on. It's a playground. So let's be good for the people that probably will vote for us in next elections and spend some money on the playground. But do you think that they question what kind of playground is needed? You think that one of them went, like, I went to investigate, what this playground means? And that's a challenge. That is really a challenge. As I said, what works in Global South doesn't work in the Global North, or what works in the Global North doesn't work in the Global South. What works in the formal city doesn't work in formal city. And this is important, that these kids were so happy to play next to something that is down there, it's 3 meters difference, and they're fine, because this is what they need. So, then we talk about the 15 steps. The challenge was that I wanted to just test out and see if we turn on the light in some of these public spaces in night, are they going to be more in use? But the challenge became that I see this one, and I try to connect to the cable and try to figure out who owns these cables. So the ownership of the cables reflects to the power structure in the settlement too. What I find out, it just was before the elections, that there are so many politicians coming and suddenly remembering the people living there. And they want, of course, to collect the votes. And there are so many, then you see this, you don't really know for whom to vote and what for. There are a lot of actors claiming the public space. So it's not only that people live there, but it's also the military police that was there for evict the drug traffickers. It's also, there is a power structure inside of a community that you need to understand before you do anything. So in order just to connect to the light bulb, and I had this just intention to turn physically the light bulb, I had to talk to all these people in order to find out that one cable. And of course, the findings from the action is not about that I managed to turn the light. What it shows, how many people claims the space and how they all have to be included if we do any kind of intervention in the place that we don't belong. This is how the informal meets formal in the physical scene. And the life are different, the structures are different. Not only physically, but emotionally and socially. So we need to change our strategies. Because the strategies that we work till now doesn't really work. Everyone is talking, no one is listening. Everyone wants to design. Does anyone want to think? This was written for Urban Think Tank, wrote it in 2005 in the book. It's so relevant in so many places today. We have to be so careful that we don't design. And we think before we design. The current between the three major set of actors is crucial. We need to change our role, and I think what we're talking here, that most of us start to play the role as a mediators between three important actors. It's public institutions, communities, and professionals. We need to connect them to make it happen, to make it different for these places to look. So the three important actors, and this is really well kind of drawn. The community is usually there discussing the thing. The institutions are there looking at it and waiting till you fail. And the professionals are there because they know how to bang the roof, so they're just banging. So I will show you how in between works. But coming back to this thing that I don't know if you've seen this in your childhood, but probably all of us have it. Then we are small, we see what actually our imagination takes us. But what is essential is invisible to the eyes. And we have to spend time in order to figure out what is really invisible. So access to and participation in public space is a first step towards the civil empowerment. Public space creation, protection, management, and enjoyment are the ideal opportunities for the involvement of all citizens, ensuring that individual and differentiated interests are transformed into collaborative practices. And this takes long time. But these places need for these kind of actions as today to take place. And that's okay. This is a place you probably know. This is Brazil. This is a settlement, informal settlement, a camp. So public spaces must be seen as a multifunctional areas for social interaction, economical exchange, and the cultural expression among a wide diversity of people, and should be designed and managed to ensure human development, building peaceful and democratic societies, and promoting cultural diversity. So as I said yesterday to the group of the students I'm working in the workshop, yes, we are different, and that's okay. And we're so long discussing of our differences that we forgot that we have to move on because we can actually live with these differences. And the public spaces are alive, then they are actually open for our differences to emerge. You know this guy. And this is the public square that is so important for Lithuania. This is how it looks today. The guy is gone, but the public space is empty. But in all our memories, this is really important spot. And this is so important that till today, 26 years, we still have no solution. But if you ask that, you think that architects never made competitions? Of course they did. It's full of a Google of the competitions. We don't even remember how many competitions we had. The challenge is that there is no dialogue between the memory, history, today needs, today communities, architects, and institutions. There is no. We still go on like that. As you see, people are looking different directions. This is a week ago. 26 years, week ago, the picture is really well showing how we look to each other. This is what happens once a month without anyone in engagement. There is one person that puts up that, look guys, we're meeting there to do the bubbles. People come with the kids. They don't need any statue or anything more. It just happens. And it's okay. So cities have a capacity of providing something for everybody only because and only when they are created by everybody. With that square, we still fight. So Jane Jacobs, that is now way more discussed in Lithuania than 5 years ago. Her approach is even started to be used and not questioned anymore, because in academia it's questioned. She's not an urbanist, what she would know about it. But why I'm showing it, because also yesterday we tried to use it here in the workshop and get out of the students and see the city and what people talk about the city, what they mean, what this museum means for them, what they think is so important that stays as an image of this museum, and what needs to be changed using the J. Jacobs kind of walking patterns and approach. What is shifting now in Lithuania is a context. And what I really want to tell you all, because I heard so many times that Ukraine is so special, it will never work, and what to do, and it will take so long, and what we can do about it, and what is the approach. You have to wait, but not wait without acting. You also have to act. I'm talking about it because we did exactly this there. The challenge is that it's not only that you can work, you actually have to create your own environment for the work to happen. So you have to create almost the urban policy for it to happen and for you to act as a professional. So what happens is that we moved, and you are in that process because I see it. We moved from the state order to the battlefield of the interest coordination. A question was always for the last 26 years in Lithuania, who coordinates it? But the thing is that in the state order, we had no information and no influence. So as the participants, as a citizen, we couldn't participate. But now with the freedom, we have some information, we can do some influence, and we have also the interest groups and the NGOs, local NGOs fighting for it. What we started to feel, and what I started to feel in the last 5 years in Lithuania, that there is a kind of a space for the democratic approach into the participatory planning. Nobody knows how to do it, but municipalities are so curious that they even call you and ask you to come for the dialogue. And this is the change. And we're still not in the democracy where we can say that we have a constructive discussion, that we have a collaboration, we are co-creating, and we are committed. Not there. But we have a smell of that. And you will be there. I am sure you will be there, because the production of this festival is people. So what happened recently in Lithuania is actually that different professionals meet up to discuss the urban challenges in the cities. The architects, engineers, planners, geographers, and social scientists 5 years ago would not sit down to discuss this. 1 year ago, it started to be possible. This is the circle where the discussion is about how we can share the knowledge we have about the projects we already had in collaboration with the institutions and the civil society. So the co-urbanism is one of these workshop events, where also the result of the co-urbanism was in that square. So basically, I want to show you one project that is on, that was called by the municipality of Biržai for us to be engaged and be developed as a public space vision for 2015. So what happened? That the municipality calls to the architecture union and saying, look, we have the money from EU, the European Union. We want to have a vision for 5 public spaces. We have the money even to develop these visions and implement. Could architects come and do these visions? And it's scary as it sounds. Architects from Vilnius comes up to the small municipality and figure out everything for people that live there and propose. I don't know why it happened, but they called me up. And they said, there is something interesting going on. You know, they need 5 public spaces to be developed, and they want to include people, but they don't know how. And also Architect Union couldn't know how. That was also interesting, kind of admitting the case that Architect Union called other people to be engaged in doing this. So what happens actually? That municipality of Biržai and Lithuanian Association of Architects calls us two, that I am the urban development practitioner, what I call myself, and my colleague who is geographer, who worked 15 years in the Ministry of Environment and now works as an independent consultant, comes in there for 4 months to work with the community and see how they can become part of the architect competition as equal partners to create the vision of these public spaces. So what we try to do, we try to be these facilitators. And what we try to do, we try to bring these specialists, administration and public together. It was really challenging. But everyone was so curious, and everyone was kind of, gossiping around that there is some strange thing going on. It's probably they're going again to waste a lot of money. But it is actually asking us to contribute, and it's asking us to come and share what we would like to have in these public spaces. So what happens that we go in 3 stages. First, we bring the administration together to find out if they are pretty sure that they want to include people. Because they were sure that they want to inform people, but they didn't know what is inclusion. So if we include them in the process, that means that we account for that process too. And actually, we tried to talk to them. And that was a challenge because the mayor said, well, I'm not going to talk to the ladies next to the church because they don't know anything about the public spaces. And I said, well, it depends how you ask them about it, because I think they know a lot, because they spend a lot of time there. So the mayor was there. He was there in the whole process. He was there for 4 months in all the workshop parts. So what happens that we're there actually to design the process. As the facilitators, we're there to organize, to ask the questions, to formulate the questions, to listen, to help to achieve the common goals. What was interesting that after 1 month, the newspapers were writing it for free, even though they were demanding money first. What was interesting that everyone wanted to connect on Facebook and ask who was in the last meeting, what they were talking about. I couldn't make it, but I really want. You know, and the thing is that after 1 month, then we ask, do you still want to be involved in this process? Do you still want to come for these public meetings? What is in the middle is how much I want to participate. So most of them said yes. Even though the first day then we asked why you are here, the message was written, I was told to come. So that's the change. What happens then that the second stage we decide to do the conference. Because yes, people have a knowledge about the places and spaces, but what was important to bring all the different layers of expertise, to bring it together, and also for the locals to understand how historically this place is also important for all Lithuania, not only for Biržai. So we also went out in the street and we just talked to public and we played games, mapping out games to make sure that we cover as many as possible. We worked with the kids and we worked with the elderly. And then they chose from 400 people, they had to choose 8 who will represent their community in the architectural workshop. So they worked with the architects, sociologists, and landscape architects, and they struggled. They so struggled to understand each other and to find the common language. But they really enjoyed it. So what happens? 3.5 months, 650 participants. The proposals are now going to the last stage of the design and then the technical drawings. And the ambassadors were representing as wide as possible. So it was representation of the free religion communities, cultural, educational organizations, youth, businesses, and other social groups. And I will try to skip that. As a practitioner, I am convinced that to understand this in-between world, we need to approach it differently. Then we're trying to investigate. In order to investigate these dimensions, we need to be inside of what is taking place. And as I already said, the way we understand the problem and the solution to it changes as we try to solve it. So it's not what you do, it's the way you do it. So the shifting role from me being an architect, going towards the urban development practitioner, goes from the expert to the process of designer and executor. So from speaker it goes to organizer and facilitator. From speaker it goes to listener. From speaker it goes to moderator. From expert it goes to contributor. And from expert it goes to the hoster and diplomat in these processes. So just to all of you the last message of my lecture. Logic will get you from A to Z. Imagination will get you everywhere else. This is real, this is also fun, and this is also the game. Sometimes we need to turn the world map upside down in order to see something else. Thank you.
питання.
It's not a question. Thank you, Elena, for so close message to my understanding and feeling. Я хочу сказати трошки про це. Це не входило в програму, просто не можу не сказати. Окей, давайте по-русски. Хвилину заберу. Я просто спостерігаю наш фестиваль. Наблюдая наш фестиваль 9 лет, я каждый раз вижу, что мы намеренно что-то такое делаем, что с нашей точки зрения является самым важным, самым прогрессивным. Нам доступны, я смотрю на многие скучающие лица, не потому что я злой такой, сейчас вам про это говорю, хотя это бывает со мной часто, к этому уже привыкли те, кто меня знает, а потому что мы делаем намеренно что-то такое, что будет понятно немногим. Я точно знаю, что кому-то понятно. Вот то, что я сейчас от Лены слышал, мне кажется, супер важным. До нее тоже были там очень важные. Люди выступали важные, не потому что они... скажи, кто поэт? Пушкин, архитектор, Фостер. Вы еще знаете других? Вот мы знаем. Мы сейчас привезли. Вот Лена одна из них. Про что я хотел сказать? Что я вот даже не надеюсь, а точно знаю, что, например, через 5 лет кто-то из вас вспомнит, слушай, а про то, что уже было, что я сейчас понял. Вот запомните вот это, потом скажете. То, что сейчас вот было несколько слайдов назад, и там еще, например, штук 100, сколько там у Лены было, но это там супер важные какие-то сообщения. Самое ценное, что мы сейчас, мне удобнее говорить от себя. Давайте, вот я вижу какие-то в архитектуре цели и ценности, как каждый из вас, надеюсь. И это не то, что там кто-то что-то загнул на фасаде. Вот таких чуваков мы могли бы вам привести сюда больше, чем этих. У нас есть ресурсы для этого, есть поддержка. Кого вам там надо? Бьярка Ингельс, он был у нас 7 лет назад. Отличный парень, да, мы с ним знакомы. И потом еще много таких знаем. Таких тоже возим, но меньше. Короче, я минуту обещал, уже больше говорю, поэтому я просто вам говорю, что вот то, что сейчас вы увидели, это сделано намеренно, это и есть ценность с точки зрения моей лично, надеюсь, в большой степени нашей команды. Обращайте внимание вот на, там, где нет картинок, а там, где есть месседжи. Все, что мы вам привезли, это очень важно, как минимум. Мы смещаем акценты с картинок веселых, там, где так зевая, в Фейсбуке что-то листаешь, что там красиво, некрасиво. Так вот это туфта все, с нашей точки зрения. Вот это важно. Я резок, может быть, намеренно, но как бы... Я начал говорить, вы пришли. Надо было раньше на что-то начать. И чем злее я говорю, тем больше публики. Я это буду иметь в виду. Ладно, извините за многословие. Спасибо, Лена.
Можливо, хтось має запитання до Єлени? Піднімайте руку, я до вас підійду.
How did the project in Rio de Janeiro end? Well, did you find the owner of the cable, or did you light this light bulb, and what happened after?
In Rio de Janeiro, I worked the end of it, that after the field work I did for 2 months living there, I worked on the data, on triangulation of data, making sure that what I seen there and I investigated it actually really talking about it in the documents, and also that other researchers are doing that. And it ended up with a master thesis. So it was a document produced after 1.5 years as part of the recommendation guidelines. And the thing is that we work really close with the other institutions in Brazil. So I worked with the municipality and with the municipality architect to actually figure out how it can inform other projects that they are doing. And well, it was taken as a collaboration of the information.
Well, I wanted to ask, actually, what did you find there? Well,
what did I find there?
No, well, yes, but what was the result of your research? Why didn't the children play at the playground? Why did they just gather around light?
Yeah, because the meaning of space, that becomes, a place.
Yes.
It's actually, it holds a meaning. And we as architects, designers, we need to take that into account. Because I actually find out a lot of challenges of other, projects there that were done by foreigners, I mean by the, authorities, without investigating what the needs and the means are in that settlement. So basically that we have to be careful, and we have to do research before we design anything. We have to include people in the design process. And this is what was the finding. And also the finding was that there are so many structures of the power that control these places, that you don't see it with the naked eye. You don't. You have to investigate it. And that you have to be careful that something that was told by one power is something different for another. And you have to include that. So you have to moderate these all stakeholders, all the interest groups together. And this is the most difficult process, because it's so little about design and about your drawing. And it's so much about the psychology and philosophy of human being, sharing the space that is so tangible.
Thank you.